Hello, and welcome to this talk on why you might want to apply to study law at Oxford. My name is Dr. Imogen Goold. I am an Associate Professor in the Law Faculty and a Fellow of St Anne's College. So I'm going to talk to you today about some of the aspects of studying law at Oxford and why you might want to choose us for your university degree. So why would you study law in the first place? Well, the obvious answer, of course, is it's one of the most direct routes to becoming a lawyer. We will teach you the law and how to be a lawyer. But it's worth remembering that you can study law without becoming a lawyer, and you can become a lawyer without studying law. So if you want to study something else at this stage, so history or classics, PPE, that's absolutely fine. You can do a conversion later, you can do a graduate diploma and become a lawyer in that way. And plenty of people do that as their law degree. What I would say is that law is a very broad degree in some senses. It will teach you lots of skills that carry across, but at the same time, the substantive content will be the law, constitutional law, administrative law, property law. You might not be sure that you're ready for that just yet. That's absolutely fine. It's not going to stop you being a lawyer later. So give a lot of thought to your university experience and what you're going to enjoy, and is this a subject that you'll be able to work at for many hours every week. You need to have passion because you will be required to do an awful lot of work on it day in, day out. You want it to be something that you love. The sorts of degree skills, the sorts of skills that we teach you in this degree, they are transferable in many ways. One of them is that you will obtain, gain, develop the ability to read huge amounts of material very quickly and digest and analyze it. Now, this is because it's what we call a reading degree. We don't spend a lot of time with you during the week. You have 3 tutorials every fortnight, maybe half a dozen lectures, and the rest of the time you're in the library reading cases, reading textbooks, reading articles on your own. But what Oxford teaches you to do very well is to read that, assimilate it, and turn it around and use it again very quickly. So say if you were taking contract law, you might have 1 week in which to cover remedies. It's a big topic. You do all the reading for that and be expected to write an essay about it within that week. And that will really build your skills at reading, working out what's important, taking it on board and using it. Because you're writing so many essays, so 12 essays usually per 8-week term, you will get very good at writing well. You will practice it day in, day out, and you will have feedback from a tutor like me who will look at your essays and tell you what you could change about them to improve them. So you get a lot of regular feedback, which will help you very much to improve your writing skills. Now, we pride ourselves on being a degree where you have to think for yourself. This is the sort of degree where I expect you to read, think, understand, and then come to the tutorial ready to discuss. So it is very much a self-directed degree. Now, for some people, that's wonderful. Other people might want a lot more face time. They might want a lot more lectures and so on. And so it may not be that Oxford is quite the right place for you. And you need to think hard about whether this kind of very reading-oriented, self-directed course is going to be a good fit for you. Lawyers are very interested in logical distinctions, the distinction between words and what they mean, categorization of behaviors and situations. And so a lot of law is about distinguishing between different situations, different facts. And you'll see that in the taster lectures later on in this open day. But of course, we also think about how rules work. That's one of our focus topics is how do rules work in society? How do they work in practice? How might we reform them? A lot of the degree is about critically evaluating the law as well as understanding it and thinking what might be better, what might we want to change. So why would you choose Oxford particularly? Well, obviously, Oxford is a great university. There's much that is quite self-evidently wonderful. But I think the things that you might want to be thinking about when you're making your choice are we have a very good rate of people leaving Oxford to go on to the legal profession, so a good rate of people finding employment. We have an awful lot of support for that sort of thing. Our careers office, your tutor, your college will all give you help in these things. We have some good academics. We have a lot of broad range in terms of the topics that we teach, but we also have some areas of deep specialization, such as jurisprudence, the law of obligations are 2 areas of particular strength. I think also the library, we have an enormous library, of course, but also your college will have its own library. So some have very large libraries. We have access to an incredible range of books. But I think when you're making the choice about whether Oxford is for you, you need to think about whether or not this is the right environment. Now, it is high pressure. It's very intense. We have 8 weeks in which we compress a lot of work, but you get a 6-week break. Now, that's a particular work pattern that suits some people very well, and other people might want a longer model where you have a longer term, you learn things more slowly over an extended period of time. That's something to bear in mind when you're making your choice. We tend to teach in pairs, so tutorial groups at some colleges are as small as one. Usually they're two, sometimes they're bigger with three, but it will always be two or three with a tutor like me in a room for an hour. Now, it's very much the case you come along with your essay, you're expected to engage, you need to talk about your work, respond to questions from your tutor in front of somebody else in a very close environment. Now, many people find that incredibly stimulating, and it's a wonderful way to learn. But for some people, that doesn't work very well. They want to be taking things in from the back of the lecture hall, writing notes and doing it by reading, and they don't want to sit in small groups and be questioned. And so you have to think about whether that's going to be right for you. What I would say is, even though it sounds daunting, it's actually meant to be and ends up being a very supportive environment, because your tutor is there to help you, not to intimidate you or make you feel stressed. Think of them as a coach who is helping you get ready for your finals at the end. Now, that's the other thing to think about as well, is whether this small group works for you, or do you want to go to Cambridge where the groups are slightly larger. But also the exam system is different. So in some universities you'll have exams every semester, and you'll build up your exam results as your degree goes on. And you might find that spreading of the assessment better for you. Oxford, by stark contrast, assesses you almost entirely on your finals exams, which you will sit at the end of 3 years. Over a period of 3 weeks, you will sit about 8 papers, depending on which courses you choose, and your degree result will be based on that. Now, that is also daunting, and for some people, that works very well. They're okay with exams, they're okay with compressing it, they're okay with the idea of spending all of this time learning and getting ready. And that works well. And the reason we do it that way is that you can reflect upon the legal system as a whole, pull your knowledge of the topics together, and get a really holistic understanding of the law before we evaluate you. And we're not evaluating you as you're learning, we're evaluating you as you are at the end of the entire degree course. So it wouldn't be the case you get results that count from early on when you might still be finding your feet. But of course, the downside is that you have to work your way through 3 weeks worth of exams. And for some people, that's very stressful and it's not the right fit. So you need to think about whether going to a university where they don't examine in that way is better, where there might be more assignments to do rather than exams. You might want to choose Cambridge, where they examine each year. So think about what is a good fit for your aptitude is, I think, one of the best ways I can suggest to you to try to choose where to apply. But what I would say about Oxford is a lot of it seems very intimidating, but we work very hard to have lots of support systems in place to get you through it. Within the college and within the faculty, you will have people assigned to you in college from your peers who are there to help you and support you. We have deans within the college who support you. We have a welfare team. You have your tutors. So in a lot of ways, there's a lot of help to get you through. Myths about Oxford. It's more expensive is one. Well, it's not. Our fees are the same. They are at the top end of the fee scale, but we also have an extensive bursary scheme which helps people who can't afford those fees. So there's a lot of support there, and it's worth checking that out. I would also say that the fees are high at Oxford, but you get an awful lot of bang for your buck in a sense, that you get very close in teaching. You have somebody really working with you week in, week out to help you improve. So in a way, it is at least the case that you are getting a lot of really good teaching for the fees that you have to pay. And we're certainly not more expensive than other universities. People from state schools are in the minority. Now, that's actually not true. It is true that independent schools are overrepresented relative to the proportion of people who go to independent schools. Of course, that's true. We know that's true. But it's not the case that that translates into Oxford only having independent school background people. In fact, we have a huge mix of people. State school students are in the majority, and we also have an enormous number of overseas candidates who come from all over the world. But the particular thing is that Oxford might look like it's not for you because it's not what you're used to. But the really interesting thing I find about Oxford is actually we share more similarities than we do differences, which may not be apparent from the outside. But Oxford, the key thing that unites us all and makes us all enjoy being together is everybody at Oxford is someone who worked super hard at school. They are committed to studying. They love learning. And so it is a place full of people who love to learn, who are engaged with their subject, who love the law. And so that as a similarity is something that you're really likely to share with everybody around you, even if their background is different to yours. And so we really want you to apply no matter what your background is. We are absolutely keen for you, from whatever background you're from, to come along and apply, because we can't admit you unless you apply, and we really want to see your application. It will put other universities off if you apply to Oxford. Well, for one thing, they can't tell, so it doesn't tell them on the UCAS form. The only way they would know is if you had chosen to put something in your personal statement to that effect. And the strong likelihood is they're not really bothered. Of course, they know that people apply to other universities, and it really doesn't matter to them. So don't worry about that at all. I mean, the key thing is don't let anybody put you off applying. Just apply. The worst that can happen is you don't get it, and that's fine. We have 2,000 applications every year. But the thing that will really be the worst is if you don't apply, then you'll just never know. So just give it a try and put in an application. It all depends on which college you apply to. Well, that's not the case. We have a lot of systems in place to spread people around. Some colleges get more applications than others, but we have a number of systems in place in the way our admissions processes work to spread candidates between colleges. If they're not invited for interview by one college, they'll be considered by a selection committee within the faculty and potentially sent to another college for an interview. Even when you come up in interview week, you might end up being interviewed at more than one college. So we do lots of things to make sure that college choice doesn't really have a big impact on where you end up and what happens. A huge number of people are considered at more than one college rather than the one for which they first applied. You can also make an open application and you don't need to choose at all. The key thing is you should think about which college is going to be a good fit for you. And to do that, you need to talk to students who are at the college, look at things about its ethos, the tutors who are there, but also really practical things like, would you be able to live in for 3 years? Do you want to do that? Do you want to live out? What the rent is like, what the food is like, all those day-to-day practicalities, because colleges have different personalities, but they have different practical arrangements too. So look into all of that and choose the one that fits you best. Everything is formal and traditional. Now, obviously, some of it is, but an awful lot is not. So you always see the pictures of the sandstone and the beautiful old buildings, but we have lovely modern buildings and we have lovely sports facilities. So not everything is like that. So you don't need to be put off if you think that it's going to be a really strange environment. There's aspects of that, but there are plenty of aspects that are nothing like that at all. Truths about Oxford. It is what you make of it. It sounds cliche, but it's absolutely true. Oxford is full of things to do, academic things, sport things, cultural things, all sorts of things. It is a city absolutely where people work hard and play hard. And if you want to do something, it is here for you. There are clubs of every possible thing you can imagine. So come here, put your all into it, and you will have an amazing time. There's no such thing as a typical Oxford student. We have people from all over the world, all sorts of backgrounds, all sorts of different socioeconomic backgrounds, educational backgrounds. It is a huge melting pot of a city, and I think there will be a place for you if you apply. What we really want, though, is people who love learning and people with academic potential. That is the key thing that will make Oxford a place that is wonderful for you. If that's you, this is the place for you. We also want you to visit. Of course, you can't come and see us in person right now, but we are putting things up online, and there's huge amounts of information on our website about how to apply, and our e-brochure is there as well.